What is up, everybody? This is a video I made documenting the trip I just went on recently with Brian and Eric from Red Dirt Cryptids. So this is just the trip over to the Ouachita National Forest. Some footage of us heading towards the location. On our first day out there, of course, we get camp set up and then we immediately get hit with this crazy amount of rain. That night I also got pretty sick from some bad food I ate earlier that day and ended up throwing up the rest of the night, so it was kind of rough. As you can see, the area is obviously very beautiful.
This thing came up and shook the tent in the middle of the night, and I slept through it. I've heard tree knocks out here.
And this is us at a campsite that we went to go visit where Brian had activity in the past.
But I'm here to tell you, we were out here and we were cooking in a Dutch oven right here. And I was sitting right here and Micah was sitting right there, and everything was normal. The sun had been down for a long time. It was dark, and then all of a sudden it was like everything just dropped. It got super quiet. I just looked over at Micah and I was like, "You feel that?" He's like, "Yeah." It was like something changed. I have no idea what it was, but long story short, wasn't long after that it started raining. And that's when we started hearing the weird bird calls, what they call mechanical bird calls. And they were coming from that direction and that direction. And later that night, I heard from that direction some tree knocks. But this used to be somebody's house. There's a foundation over here.
Here we are, day 3. We decided to walk around, just look through this location see if we could find anything that sticks out, see if we can find any possible sign. I was mainly looking around the creeks just because that's where there seemed to be more opportunity for prints to possibly be found. And then I ended up finding this track. It wasn't by the creeks, it was actually on that main trail that was on earlier, but here you can clearly see toe definition. I think this is actually a really great track. Okay, so this was our final night out there, and in contrast to our first night, or I should say, sorry, our second night, we didn't hear any animal noises whatsoever. On the second night, we did hear a coyote, some barred owls. We heard a lot of different noises out there, and but for some reason, on this final night, we were not hearing a thing. We did hear closer to about maybe around midnight, we heard some possible knocks. One of them to me sounded very clear, but that was really about it. We weren't hearing really anything at all. So long story short, when Brian posts his video, I will give a better description, because he actually recorded me giving in detail a description of what happened that night. But for those of you watching on the channel, pretty much to sum it up, we went to sleep in our tents, and I decided to stay up a little bit. I say tents, I was the only one sleeping in a tent. Everyone else slept in their vehicle. I slept in my tent, and I laid there, and I decided to just be quiet, try to stay up for as long as I could, in case anything decided to possibly make noise after we went to bed. I wasn't honestly expecting anything to happen. I just thought maybe they weren't there at that moment, at least in that specific area, or they just weren't interested in, making their presence known in any way to us. But shortly after we went to bed, it was around approximately 1:40 in the morning. I wrote it down on my phone. I heard a loud tree crack. It was either a limb, a decent sized limb being peeled off a tree or bent or broken, or I don't know, bark being peeled off. I really couldn't tell you exactly, but it was pretty loud, and it was, to me, it sounded like it was possibly across the creek, but whatever the case, it was very close to our location. It was very clear. I made note of that, and then shortly after that noise, I proceeded to hear clear as day bipedal footsteps from what would have been, I'll just say, the left side of my tent, just based off how I was laying in the tent, the left side of my tent. It was about maybe 3-4 steps, just crunch, 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 crunch. Clearly, to me, sounded very bipedal. In fact, I actually thought it was possibly Brian or Eric who were making the noise, who were walking around the campfire for some reason. I then heard on the other side of my tent movement right after this other noise had stopped, and it moved near the creek, right by the creek, I should say, on the other side of my tent. Moved approximately around the same thing, maybe 4 steps or so, and then stopped. I then proceeded to hear something, what I believe to be possibly my chair that I brought out to the campsite, slide on the ground a decent distance. And that's when I really got kind of freaked out a little bit, because at that point I was pretty confident of what was doing this. Apparently, and Brian will, I'm sure, go into it in his video, but apparently Brian, I was texting him when this was happening, and he thought he saw something, some type of silhouette, dark silhouette, taller than my tent around that time, standing by my tent. And he even heard something walk past his vehicle and Eric's van. Then, the following day, we get up, we talk about the experience, and Eric finds tracks, I believe it was two tracks on this, I'll call it a berm, near our campsite. These were clear as day impressions, and it was one on the slope and then one on top of the slope, and it was a really significant step, way out of characteristic of how a human would obviously walk up a slope. Obviously a human walking up a slope would, especially one that was as steep as it was, would take multiple steps off the slope and then get to the top. This one was literally one step towards around the middle of the slope and then one on top, and these were very large impressions. We took pictures of it. Very interesting finds, in my opinion. If this was indeed left by whatever had visited our campsite, it had decided to walk the road behind the campsite, followed that road, and then walked up this berm, this tiny little hill. And when you go up there, you can clearly see our campsite. So I believe that after it had walked through our campsite, moved some stuff around, it then decided to keep an eye and do some, I guess, surveillance on our campsite that night after it had left the area after that. So I fully believe that we were visited by at least 2 of these creatures that night. And it was just a really amazing experience. I've never had anything like that happen before. But yeah, thankfully Brian did have some audio recorders deployed that night. So hopefully, as he reviews the audio, we can hopefully see if any interesting audio was captured. I'm really hoping that it was, but I really look forward to hopefully getting to listen to what was captured. Either way, though, I definitely heard some interesting things that night, and fully believe that they had visited our campsite. And it was a really great experience getting to visit this amazing area and have some cool experiences. Found a really good print. I was really happy with the experience. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please let me know what you think. Tell me what areas would you like us to visit, to research at. If any hot spots you're aware of, please just let us know. And I look forward to making more videos for you guys in the future. And take care. Bye.